Morning everyone. This is the first in some parts, I'm not quite sure how many yet, of the nitrogen cycle. The way I'm going to split it up is first look at the cycle and each of the stages. I'll include what bacteria are involved in each of those stages, but I'll tell you at the time it's not really necessary to know the names of those bacteria, but they may be referred to in exam questions. Once we've done the process, we'll then I will go through some of the importance of the nitrogen cycle and how it links to photosynthesis and some of the synoptic ideas that you can link the nitrogen cycle for the essay on paper 3, and then probably in a final part I'll do some specific exam questions from out of the question booklet. Alright, let's start. So, nitrogen is the most common gas in the atmosphere. However, nitrogen is really inert and unreactive, and the reason for that is it's got that triple bond between the two nitrogen atoms, and that triple bond requires loads of energy to break, and therefore plants and organisms are unable, mostly, to make use of that nitrogen in the atmosphere, with the exception of the first organisms that we're going to look at in a moment. There are some ways that make that where this nitrogen is able to be available to biological organisms. In fact, there are 3 ways. So the first, you may remember from GCSE, is via the Haber process. So it's the Haber process which is used to produce ammonium ions, ammonia really, that can be used in fertilisers. So that Haber process involves reacting nitrogen with hydrogen gas, and there's that reversible reaction which would make 2 ammonia molecules. So that is the synthetic way of making ammonia, and like I said, that's used for the production of fertilisers. We'll come back to why that's significant later on when we think about agriculture and farming. There is a second way. Now, it's fairly uncommon that an exam question will talk about this, but it does happen, and that is what's called the atmospheric fixation, and it involves lightning. So, when there is a thunderstorm, the atmospheric nitrogen can be ionised by the lightning itself. All of that energy in the lightning is able to break those bonds, and that also produces ammonia, and that ammonia can then be dissolved in the soil and available to plants. Sorry, I think my dog's just noticed something. Dilly, sit down. So those are 2 other methods by which ammonia can be available to plants, but we're most interested in biological fixation. So this first step, when nitrogen becomes available, nitrogen is converted into ammonium ions through a process called nitrogen fixation. And nitrogen fixation involves bacteria that are called nitrogen fixing bacteria. So you need to refer to them as nitrogen fixing bacteria, but you may see their names given. Nitrogen. Okay, and the two nitrogen fixing bacteria, well, the most common one is free in the soil. It exists in the soil, and it is called Azotobacter. An Azotobacter is an aerobic bacteria. It uses ATP from aerobic respiration to break those triple bonds between the nitrogen atoms in atmospheric nitrogen and convert it into ammonium ions. Now obviously that requires lots of ATP because it requires lots of energy to break that, and we'll come back to these in a little bit more detail later on. The second nitrogen fixing bacteria is called Rhizobium. And these Rhizobium are interesting because they exist in a symbiotic relationship with some plants. So plants such as peas and beans and clover are referred to as legumes. Okay? And the rhizobium exist in root nodules. So these are parts of the root that look like a cyst, and those root nodules contain the rhizobium bacteria, and those rhizobium bacteria are able to do this process of nitrogen fixation. Okay. Now it's important for you that you just refer to them in your responses as nitrogen fixing bacteria, but like I said, you may see them referred to with these two names, Azotobacter and Rhizobium in the legumes. Now these make nitrogen into ammonium ions, but ammonium ions aren't particularly useful, so they need to be, to plants anyway, they need to be oxidised into nitrates, and that happens in a two-part reactions. Okay. And this process is called nitrification. So first, the ammonium ions are converted into nitrites, NO2, 2 minus, of course, NO2 minus, and these are called nitrites. So it's oxidised from ammonium ions into these nitrites. Now again, this is a bacteria you do not need to know the name of, but you may see it in the exam questions, and that is by a bacterium or a group of bacteria called Nitrosomonas. Okay, so they oxidise ammonium ions into nitrites, and then there is a second stage where those nitrites are further oxidised into nitrates, and 3 minus. And this is by a second bacteria called Nitrobacter. This process then is known as nitrification. And Nitrosomonas and Nitrobacter are both referred to as nitrifying bacteria. Okay, so nitrous ammonius, ammonium ions into nitrites, nitrobacter, oxidised nitrites into nitrates. And then those nitrates are available to plants. Right, I'm going to stop the video there and I'm going to continue afterwards because otherwise it just takes forever for them to upload onto YouTube. I'll be back with you in a second.